Hey guys, welcome to Rihanna's Lens, where I interact with you about the components in the STEM field and introduce you to fascinating people who passionately inhabit the scientific and technical frontiers of our society. My name is Rihanna Malhotra, and I'm absolutely elated to share this podcast with all of you. On this episode, I'm joined by a guest who's a geocommunicator. Her job is to teach geology to the public through social media, outreach, and live presentations. She has a huge collection of rocks and minerals that she picks up on her adventurous travels. I am so glad to welcome and introduce Cate Larsen. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to begin our discussion.
Thank you for having me, Rihanna. It's really great to be here, and I love your podcast and what you're doing, having a lot of different people in STEM, scientists and engineers. I really admire what you're doing to kind of teach people about the different fields of STEM and the different careers that they can have.
Yeah, thank you so much. That means a lot to me, especially coming from such a great geologist and geocommunicator. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's just get straight to it. So I want to know, what exactly is it that motivated you to become a geocommunicator?
Well, I love to teach. I have had a passion for teaching since I was, since I was a kid. And when I went to college and I got into geology, I really loved tutoring my classmates, and like people would come up to me and kind of ask me like, oh, can you explain this? And I learn things fast, but I also love to teach things to other people. So I became a tutor when I was in college. I did a lot of I hosted a lecture explaining how to use Microsoft Excel for our geology classes. And I thought it was, I have this passion for teaching and for educating. And I want to become a professor. So I'm, taking some time, because COVID isn't really the best time to attend grad school. I wouldn't have all the opportunities that I would. So I just started making TikTok videos, just making videos about geology, and it turned into making educational videos. And then that turned into doing my weekly live stream called Rocks and Hops, where I teach a geology lesson for like an hour and a half. And it's very casual. And because geologists really love beer, I drink a craft beer while doing it. And I kind of share like, oh, here's what it is, here's where it's from. And now let's talk about rocks.
That sounds awesome. I think TikTok came at the right time during this pandemic, because most of us had so many aspirations and so many things that we were looking forward to doing in 2020. Like all of us imagined, when I was younger, at least I imagined that by 2020 will be the big year. There'll be flying cars and there'll be robots at your service. We thought 2020 is that big year, but it just turned out to be something so different. But I'm glad that with TikTok and with the help of just other social media and other mediums, we can really convey about whether it be geology or other STEM fields. We can really talk about them through these platforms. And like you said, like you could teach so many other people, so they're not only gaining information, but it's also helping you know more about rocks yourself. Because at the end, how people say that when you teach about rocks, or when you teach just any concept, you just end up learning more about it yourself, or you just start formulating more questions inside your head, thinking, so wait, I taught this concept, but there must be something more related to this, and you would dive more deeper into that. At least that's my experience.
Absolutely. I say all the time, and I was told a lot throughout college, you never really know something fully until you can explain it to somebody else. And that's how I used to study for my classes and for tests. I would, I would read all of my notes, and then I would pretend like I was giving a presentation on them. So I would really get it and memorize it, and not just have like the recalling information. I actually fully understood it. And I tell that to people now, and I want them to have that same experience, so that they can really fully learn something. So what I do is try to teach geology in a way that's interesting and fun, and someone's going to remember it and say, oh, hey, I learned this really cool thing, and they're explaining it to somebody else. So then they really do understand it. And that is one of the most rewarding things about education as a whole, is to see somebody have that like aha moment and like really get what you're teaching.
Right, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And is there something that you have taught that really inspired you, or you just love teaching?
I think the first time I ever taught was I was a junior in high school, and I was really into astronomy, and I had like a fixation on Pluto. Like I really, really liked Pluto. So I asked my high school astronomy teacher, I was like, can I do the class on Pluto today? And I had a whole PowerPoint made, and she's like, I guess. So I did that. And it was my first time like teaching. It was like a 20-minute thing, and I'd never done something that long before, but I loved it. And I knew then that I wanted to be some kind of teacher.
Yeah, that sounds great. So now a lot of people say that Pluto is not really a planet, like they call it too small to be a planet. Do you believe that as
I've got so many opinions about that. My specialty, as far as my personal interest and research that I have done when I was in college, I have a really deep interest in planetary geology. So I look at rocks in space. It's all the aspects of astronomy, but without the stars and galaxies. It's just the rocky planets and asteroids and moons. And I'm really interested in Pluto. And I have a lot of opinions about why Pluto isn't a dwarf planet. It's more of a double planet because it's a gravitational relationship with its largest moon. I could go on, but you probably don't want to hear about that.
No, I would actually love to know. Could you just share one thing?
Well, the orbit that Pluto has, it kind of got demoted from being a planet because it has a weirder orbit than other planets do. Even for being as far out as it is, it still can't really be called a planet because of its orbit. But interestingly, it's not just orbiting the sun, it's having this weird orbit with its moon. Its largest moon, Charon, and Pluto itself, they orbit around a central point that's actually outside of Pluto. So they're orbiting around each other instead of like how our moon orbits around a point inside the Earth. So they're so close in mass and density that you could really think of it as being a double planet.
Wow, that's really interesting and so different for me to hear. I really did not know that before. And I concur that you were really interested in geology since basically high school. So what course did you take in university to become a geocommunicator?
I was, me loving space as a kid, and I was an astronomy major in college, and I didn't think I liked geology because the way that it was taught to me when I was in high school, it just didn't stick. It didn't spark interest. And that really changed when I got to college and I took my first geology class, which was a planetary geology class. So it was kind of like a little segue into geology. And I found that I loved it so much more than astronomy, because all I really liked in astronomy was the planets. So now I can combine those two. And I took that class, and the professor that I had, who is I consider him like a really big part of my life. He mentored me throughout my 2 years at that school, and he really did his best. The way that he taught our class made you so interested, and it really inspired me. And I took classes with him after that when I changed my major to geology. And I was like, I want to do what he does. I want to be like him, because he gave me that moment of realizing this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is so interesting to me. And I've succeeded in that, not in the same way that he did as being a professor at a college, but I receive messages all the time from people who say that I inspired them to study geology, or, they were on the fence about it, but now they really love it. And I'm the reason for that. And it brings me such joy and feelings of a success. Like I did that. And I want to get more people interested in geology, because is from my own experience, not loving it in high school because it wasn't being taught to me, I would have never taken a geology class in college if it weren't for finding that link between one of my other interests. And I want that for other people as well.
Yeah, so I think it's great what you're doing, and how you're inspiring so many other people. I think, as you said, I think in high school, geology is not emphasized enough, or it's not taught well enough. So it's really awesome that you're changing people's opinions and motivating more people to join these fields. So I think it's really important that more people like you come in and, at least like during these times, help through social media and help everyone around them. And especially in high school, when we're just building our learning blocks and getting into different fields, and that we have to really get into. So it's just awesome. And like you mentioned, having a great professor is so important, because that's what inspired you to really get into this field. And you're being that virtual professor for everyone. So just kudos to you, and well done.
Thank you. I do want to go on in the future and go to grad school and eventually, get my master's or my PhD and actually teach. And I want to help students find their passion and do research with them. Being able to do research when I went to my second college after I transfer out of community college, being able to explore my specific interests within geology, and having professors who kind of guided me and said, oh, hey, well, you're interested in this. Would you be interested in doing research like this? And because of that, I was able to present two research projects at a big geology conference in 2020. And it was, one of them was class research that my whole class did, and I was voted to be the lead author on that. So I got to be the first name, and that's a really big deal on a scientific paper. And then I did another research project that was more related to planetary geology, and it was on ice dynamics of glaciers. And that one that was just me, and that's my real passion. And I can't wait to find students in the future, my students, and guide them to what they really love, and then give them the resources that were given to me too, and give them their head start on their professional career, because doing research as an undergrad in any science is really meaningful, not just for your resume, but for your experience too. Having that experience to do research and learn how to research and put together a presentation or a publication. It takes a lot of work, and it really pays off in the future in whatever field that you go into.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm sure all these publications must be so rewarding for you. And I'm sure with your PhD, you'll be able to touch so many more lives and help them to know more about geology, like I mentioned before. So maybe after this pandemic gets over, once you get your PhD, you will practically be invincible, because you're already helping so many people. And I'm sure after your PhD,
Thank you.
I'm sure a lot of people want to join this really interesting field.
Yeah, I am working to make geology more easily accessible. And I just want to mention on the topic of, publishing papers, I recently started my own podcast that I read a new publication in the field of geology or geoscience as a whole. And when you read these papers, they are so overly complicated, and they're really hard to understand for someone who isn't actively studying that. So I break them down so that everyone can understand what's new, what new discoveries have we made, or past discoveries that we've improved our collective knowledge of.
Yeah, it all sounds so interesting. I'll definitely check out your podcast, and I encourage my viewers to check it out as well. I'm sure it will all be too interesting.
I would love to have you come on as a guest on my own podcast. That would be so cool.
Thank you so much. I'll be honored. And next up, I also want to know, like, since you go on so many journeys and so many adventures, and you like you show so many rocks with you. So, what is one of your favorite adventure?
I think my my favorite adventure was my first like cross country trip. Like I flew across the country to go to field camp for the first time, and my class in college, there was about I think 12 or 13 of us. It was a very small, tight knit group, and we flew to Death Valley, and we spent I think it was 10 days there, wandering around the desert, mapping rocks. And at that time, it was for some of it, that was my first experience mapping and being really in the field, not just on these small local field trips that we did around my college. This was like the big time. And I did not take home any rocks because that is illegal. Definitely didn't take home any rocks from a national park. Nope.
So, have you taken rocks from anywhere else? And if so, what's the coolest rock that you have taken back home?
I have, oh, let me think about that. My favorite kinds of rocks are metamorphic rocks, and I have a ton of those. Most of my rocks in my collection I find. A couple of them I've bought from, like really, I guess, reputable sources, that it's not just like rocks or crystals. It's like really hunks of rock with crystals in it and all this stuff. And I like having like display pieces, I guess. What is my favorite rock? I think it might be this one. This one is one of my favorites. This is a piece of there's garnets in it. It's a garnet amphibolite in a gabbroic matrix. This came from Gore Mountain in the Adirondacks in New York, and all these red chunks are pieces of garnet. Garnet's my favorite mineral because it's in my favorite kind of rock, which is metamorphic rock. And I turned it into a bottle opener because geologists love beer. And so this is how I open my beers for my live streams.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool rock, and I love your little modification. And
yeah, I'm realizing now this is a podcast. No one can see how beautiful this rock is.
No,
that is a real bummer.
It'll be up on YouTube.
Oh, that's great. Perfect.
So they'll be able to see all your wonderful rocks, and I love the fact that it has a beer opener, so it links to your how geologists are. So yeah. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, I really love it. I want to make more of them. I've made one for my boyfriend and one for one of my friends from college, and I want to make more of these and just like give them to people because I think that they're just so cool because you're adding a new way to display it. It's kind of hard to display rocks if they're all like small. Because that adds some like height to it. I've got way too many rocks and minerals. Every surface in my home is covered in rocks and minerals. And now they're sort of like leaking to my boyfriend's place. Like I'm bringing rocks there and leaving them all over his shelves.
I mean, you could definitely make it like a podcast merch, as they say. So
maybe.
Because it just perfectly links everything to geology, like the beer opener and plus the rock. So I think that'd be a really cool idea.
Let me turn off my notifications. Sorry that my phone keeps buzzing.
No problem. And also I want to ask you that now that you are a communicator, why do you think that geology is such an important thing that people need to get into and study?
Geology is a unique science because it takes a lot of critical thinking to understand it, whereas things like chemistry and I guess biology, it's all facts. It's all just straightforward. And physics too. It's all just math, and it's very straightforward. Geology is very it's very informational, but also conceptual at the same time. And having an understanding of geology really strengthens your ability to have critical thinking, processes, and to understand the deeper meaning of information, not just like the straightforward, this chemical reacts with this chemical. Geology is very much, knowing this and this, what does this mean? What is this? And so much of geology is about Earth's past. And we have to understand Earth's past in order to understand what's happening now and what will happen in the future too. So people doing things like structural geology, they look at the past and also the present and future of movements in the earth, and how things are shaped now and how that might change. And that moves into people who are seismologists, who are looking at earthquakes and trying to understand where earthquakes can happen, how to be better prepared for them. And then there are geologists who do environmental geology and engineering geology to make sure that if you're going to be building in an area, is the ground going to be sustainable for that? And are you going to be able to have a structure that is not only, not disturbing the environment and negatively affecting the rock? Is it going to withstand time and changing conditions? You don't want to build on like sand that's going to get washed away. You want to know that what you're building is going to last, and it's going to be safe, and it's not going to have negative impacts on, the water table, and, having things leak into the ground that will affect the water, that will affect, wildlife, plant life, and human life. You don't want to dig a well under your house down the water table from a gas station. So geologists are really important to kind of, better build and better live our lives.
Right, I completely agree. And as you said, it's one field that you can know the concepts and you can know the information, but it's something that's really hands-on. Like you have to go outside and explore the different type of rocks. And as you said, that the people that study the earthquakes, it's really helpful to them as well. So I think geology is a great field, and you can really do things practically rather than just mugging up information. But and it also helps in critical thinking skills, which I think it's something that is important and it's present in all the STEM fields. And I think we're all logical thinkers, and we have everything to be hands-on. So how we keep saying that now technology is advancing, and we just say that let's wait and watch how things are going to progress. But being in STEM, sometimes we just need to wait and think that, oh, now we are going to the STEM field, so we will be the people that will be changing things, and we'll be the ones that will be modifying things. So it's instead of saying let's wait and watch, we should rather say let's make and watch, because at the end of the day, the people in the STEM fields are the ones that are modifying and making the changes in the world.
Absolutely.
So such an amazing field, whether it be geology or just any other field in STEM, it's really helping the society as a whole.
Absolutely. And geology ties into so many other fields as well. And what I really love about science is that it's such a collaborative effort. For one thing to advance, you have to look at so many other things. And, some people will be like, oh, well, physicists suck, or, they're uptight, or chemists are quiet, or whatever. And it's like, you're kind of like fighting in weird ways, but it's like, we're all working together to advance our collective understanding of everything around us, and, working together and just being cooperative and collaborative. I think that's one of my favorite things about science, is that how connected everything is in nature. And we have to reflect that in our research and being connected with other fields of science.
Yeah, same here. I completely agree with you that everything is so interconnected, and STEM especially is so interdisciplinary. And like you mentioned, geology has so many connections. So I'm sure it must be also some part of it must also be connected to bits of technology. So are there different tools or different technologies that you use in order to communicate about geology or just learn about geology in general?
Tools that I use?
Yeah.
Um, See, I don't really use a whole lot of tools. I mean, I don't do as much field work as I used to when I was in college. And, I'm hoping to kind of move forward and do more field things, like hosting more field trips and geology hikes. I do want to get outside, and for being in the field, you do use a lot of hands-on tools. You get really hands-on with the rock. You're using a compass, a GPS. You're, sometimes you're hammering out a sample of rock. And I think my favorite tool as a geologist isn't really a tool at all. It's a vest. It's like a fishing vest with a lot of pockets. I put everything in my pockets, and I can fit so many rocks, so many notebooks, all of my little tools, my hand lens that I use to look at rocks and minerals up close and in the field too. And it's covered in scratches from being dropped on rocky ground. And it has a lot of my vest means a lot to me. And I'm always telling other like geology students, like, get a vest, get a field vest, ditch the backpack, just get a field vest.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, instead of carrying a heavy backpack, just having a big vest in general with
Yeah.
everything, it's just so
Distribute the
much easier.
weight everywhere.
Yeah. And I think us women in general, we're so tired of those small jean pockets that we really love having those big pockets and with many, or a jacket with many pockets. So
Hmm.
I think it just generally we're all just very interested in things with pockets.
Yeah, a lot of geology field clothing. A lot of female geologists that I know, we generally buy men's pants, like men's hiking pants and working pants for the outdoor and being in the field, because the women's stuff, yeah, like, it's getting better. Outdoor clothes for women generally do have deeper pockets, but you find that they're more expensive, which is kind of weird. They're more expensive. They come in these ugly colors, and they're like slim fit. Like, I just want to wear pants and not get scratches on my legs or, bugs. I don't want to have like I don't want to have to pay extra for pockets that aren't as big, and they're a lot fewer, and it looks more stylish. So I and a lot of other female geologists, we buy men's pants.
Right, but see, speaking of which, like, we have so many different things compared to men. So speaking of which, what do you think about there being discrimination in the STEM fields, or just fewer number of women in these fields? So what's your opinion about that?
I do know that there is some gender discrimination in geoscience fields. I remember seeing a video over a year ago about a female geologist who works on a construction site. She's kind of like I guess she's doing like field work to secure the knowledge about the site, about the geology of the site. And she had faced discrimination from her male co-workers who were, engineers and stuff. And that she had posted about it, and it got a lot of news coverage. And I connected with her, and I was like, wow, that's really something. That was my first time hearing about discrimination towards women in geology and geoscience, as I had never really experienced that. I mean, the one time I really kind of I was on a field trip. I was in Death Valley, and I had a really hard time keeping up with my classmates, and I was just not physically able to hike and like hike uphill. At the time, I did have pneumonia and didn't know it, but I had talked to my professor, and I said, why what can I do? Is there hope for me to be a professor and to lead field trips and to do it right? If I am having a hard time keeping up with the group, and I'm not like, I don't have anything physically that would keep me from doing that. I just got tired and sore fast. I did have pneumonia just, but he told me, he's like, well, women's bodies aren't really equipped for this sort of thing. And I was like, oh no, why did you just say that? I look up to you. Why did you just say that? It really kind of hit me that there is still this discrimination towards women in these predominantly male fields that are, more, I guess, gritty. And, you can be a geologist and work, behind a desk, or you can work outdoors. And he was basically saying that maybe I'd be more of a desk person. And it really did hurt. But I know that it's just different body types. There are plenty of men who wouldn't be able to do that either. And I just happen to be one of the body types who probably can't. But it doesn't mean anything less towards women. Women can do anything that men can. If you're having a hard time keeping up on a hike, I should probably do more leg exercises, or not be sick on a field trip next time. We'll see. But I do feel like there is discrimination in my field specifically. I haven't seen a whole lot of it, which has been nice. Oh, except for the times that I get men on my social media questioning my, I guess, my authority and professionalism, and they're saying that I'm not as educated. It's kind of weird. I feel like I wouldn't get those kinds of comments if I was a man.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And it's just weird how women and men of the same skill set are treated so differently. Whether it be any workforce, even the unequal pay, that's just terrible. And being in the 21st century, I really hope that would change. And I know like we're improving, but there's still so many people out there. Like you said, one of the person in your field trip, you looked up to that person, and just making that remark, I'm sure that must be terrible for you. And I don't think anyone should be saying that, or anyone should really hear that. And I'm sure that someone with the same like skill set as yours, and if that was a man, that no comment like that would have been made. It even goes to men on the same side, that if a man made that same remark, they'd probably be told to toughen up, or don't cry, or something like that. But
Yeah.
so it's just something we as a society should change, because we're in the 21st century, and why are we still talking about things that were rudely said in the past? So us as an entire STEM field, and spreading more awareness about diversity and less gender discrimination should be really important. And I'm sure women like you can inspire everyone around them to do the same.
I really hope so. There are a growing number of women who are joining these geoscience fields, and in the past, with a lot of older geologists from a different generation, most of them are men. And so now there's this new generation, and it seems to me, in my experience, that it's a very close ratio of men to women who are joining these fields. And now that is the world is changing. It's increasing, and it's really refreshing to see so many women doing amazing things in geoscience, and paving the way for more women and young girls to look up to that. And when they think of a geologist, they don't just think of a man in a little hat, and he's like gruff and holding a hammer. You can be a geologist and be so many other things, even a woman.
Right, absolutely. And it's so important to change people's mindset. And I'm so glad more people are joining this field. And I'm sure the numbers are just increasing day by day. And that's really good to hear. And I'm so glad more women are being encouraged to join this field. I'm sure like there might be few people along the way that might discourage you. But we as women just need to push through and support each other. like through this entire journey and uplift, because we women understand each other when what we're going through, all this discrimination, more than anyone else, because people might be pushing you down, but you need to know in your heart that if this is what you want to do, you just go ahead and do it. Like you said, it may take you a leg workout to go on your
Yeah.
next field trip, but you will make sure you do it. And if you meet him next time, I want you to prove him wrong, because I know you can do it.
One of what I would really love to do, I want to go back to Death Valley. I had such a great experience there, and now that I'm getting into leading field trips, I want to, expand out of my I guess region and go to different places and host field trips there and lectures there. I want to lead a group through all of my favorite spots in Death Valley, and I'm going to hike up Ubehebe Crater, and I'm not going to fall to my knees several times. I am going to do it. I'm going to breath train. I'm going to leg train. I am absolutely going to do it, and it's going to feel so rewarding.
Yeah, I do believe in you. I am sure you can do it. So
Thank
do your
you.
leg workout and go on those field trips. I'm sure you can do it.
Thanks.
Lastly, I want to ask you, what advice would you like to give to anyone that wants to join the same field as yours?
I would tell you to, well, first I would say to go to, a community college first. I think it was a great experience for me because I got to explore different subjects, and I found geology was my favorite. And I got to take that, intro class and really know that I loved it before I went and chose a bigger school based on that. So, choosing a school for one thing, doing it without fully knowing it yet, and taking that introductory class. If you really love geology and you're ready for it, I say go for it. Go to a college that has cool geology nearby, so that you can have field trips locally, that you don't have to travel hours and hours to go see cool geology and experience it in the fields. I think that it's a great field, and it is so much fun to study in college. Geologists and geology majors are some of the most friendly people I have ever met, and we're very laid back and easygoing. It's really easy to make friends and make connections, and I really recommend it to anybody who's thinking about it. I am always here to answer questions. I always encourage people to reach out to me if they have specific questions. I try to, guide them towards some resources that I have on my website, all the different fields of geology and what majoring in geology entails and what the different jobs in geology entail. But I do want to help people and give them more personalized advice. So if you're listening and you are thinking about becoming a geology major, or you want to become a geologist in the future, I am here to answer your questions. I want you to come to that realization that you want to be a geologist. I want to give you that amazing moment that I had.
Yeah, definitely. So could you shout out your Instagram or anywhere that anyone would like to reach out to you?
Sure. My Instagram, I can receive messages on there. TikTok, not so much. My Instagram is Groovy Geologist, and I also have a website that's groovygeologist.com. And if you want to watch some of my TikTok videos, you can find me at Rock Talk Cate.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to check it out, and your podcast as well. And if there's any
great, yeah. Oh, almost it's called The Schist of It. I'm deciphering papers so you can get the gist of it. Get it? It's a fun joke. Schist is a kind of rock.
So there are so many different connections to your podcast. I just love it. So I will definitely make sure to check it out.
Great. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much, Cate, for coming on. I had such a great time talking to you and getting to know so many of your different experiences. I'm sure even the viewers must have really enjoyed it.
No, thank you so much for having me on. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it, and I really hope that you get people. Do you get people reaching out to you and telling you that you inspired them to pick a field in STEM?
I mean, yeah, there are a couple of people that just text me saying that I love listening to your podcast, and so basically, I get high school students listening into my podcast because, mostly juniors or seniors because they're applying to universities, so
Yeah.
they need to get a gist about the field. So having so many different guests really inspires them to. So it's just a great feeling to know that, oh, my podcast is helping someone and it's helping women and even men to get into these different fields. And it's just also great for me because I get to talk to so many different people like you and get to know about their insights. And it's just a great experience for me as well because I've never known so much more about different fields than I have now. And there's so many new fields that I've discovered through this podcast. So I'm so grateful.
That is amazing. I'm so happy for you that you're having that experience, and I really admire what you're doing. I said before, I'll say it again. You are incredible, Rihanna. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Cate. And to let all of you know, this podcast is now available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to all listening platforms and stay tuned for more. Thank you, Cate, again. Bye-bye.
Bye.